Hey, good morning, everyone. Very glad you could join us this morning. Today, we're going to be covering the construction trends beyond the digital transformation. As many of you know by now, my name is Sylvia and I'm responsible for marketing. This morning, I'm joined by our guest speaker from Sana, David Burrows, who will be presenting for us their findings about the transformation the construction industry is going through and how we can make it work in our favor. David is going to be taking you through the bulk of today's session, and I'll pass over to him in a second to go through today's agenda. If you have been on any of our webinars before, you know how it works. If not, to save time, we ask you to direct any questions to me once the webinar is over. I will put my contact details up at the end of the presentation, so please feel free to call me or drop me an email. As usual, we're recording today's session and we'll upload it to our website very soon. It's a nice short one this morning. We're looking for today's webinar to last around 30 minutes. So if you're all set, David, it's over to you.
Thanks, Sylvia. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for taking the time out to join today's webinar. And as Sylvia sort of said already, today we're going to zoom in on the digital transformation within the construction industry. So Sylvia's already mentioned, my name's David and I work on Sana's marketing strategy within the UK and Ireland. The agenda for today is threefold. So firstly, we're going to look at the current state of the construction industry, and that's going to be on a global level as well as specifically in the UK as well. After that, we're going to explore the market disruptors that are having a major influence on the current and future state of the construction industry. And finally, we're going to look to the future. So how can and is currently the construction sector digitally transforming, and what part can e-commerce play within that, and what part is it already playing within that? So just before we dive into the good stuff, it's always good to share a bit of a certifications slide. So as you can see at Sana, we've got numerous certifications, and we won ISV of the Year for Western Europe last year, which is something that we're incredibly proud of. But enough about that. Let's get back to the reason why you're here today, which is all about the construction industry. So first and foremost, there's a positive outlook for the construction industry. We're leaving behind the 2007 economic downturn. That's far behind us. As you can see on the screen, things are looking really positive. But what about even further ahead? What about further ahead than 2020 even? Some of our research shows that by 2030, the Global Construction Perspectives and Oxford Economics predict that the industry will be one of the most dynamic sectors, which is obviously brilliant news. The global construction output is actually expected to grow 85% by then, and that's meant to give a market worth of almost 12 trillion. Focusing specifically on Europe, one fact shaking up the construction industry is the ongoing low interest rates. So that's got investors looking to acquire assets rather than deposit the capital in banks. And thanks to the fact that loans are becoming and remaining affordable, we're seeing a trend of lending to finance new houses, whether that's Germany, France, Ireland and the Netherlands. They're just some of the countries that are expected to benefit according to the ECB. Manufacturing is also in a strong position as well. So the CECE's report indicates that European manufacturers are poised to benefit from the global market that, as we've already mentioned, it's recovering from 3 consecutive years of decline. Growth is expected, so despite the ongoing economic uncertainty, I've not mentioned the word Brexit just yet, but in fact the European equipment manufacturing industry saw a 10% sales increase in the previous year, and that actually places Europe amongst one of the best performing regions worldwide. So here's the bit we're all interested in. What about the UK? As the 2016 Brexit vote demonstrated, Europe is anything but straightforward. So, that's why we need to really focus in on the UK. The numbers on screen there might seem a bit underwhelming, but they're actually exceeding expectation. and that's thanks to a strong final quarter. Mid-year forecast predicted a decline of 5 to 10%. Furthermore, 2014 to 2016 actually saw the highest sales since the 2007 market crash. So it's a one word that no one, or everyone, depending which way you look at it, wants to talk about. It's impossible to speak about the construction market without considering the results of 2016's Brexit vote. As you can see there on screen, as the CEC notes, the UK industry is expected to rely more heavily on infrastructure and civil engineering projects as a result of potential reductions in private investments in offices and industrial projects. This is an area that is going to be touched on sort of several times throughout today's presentation, because it is key in potentially affecting, and potential is the key word, but it's key in potentially affecting some of the makeup of the future of the construction industry. So moving on to increased moving costs. Home renovation is becoming a more attractive option than moving house in the UK, and thanks to rising moving costs. That can be attributed to house price inflation, but also rising stamp duty. As you can see on screen, look, if some of us are lucky enough to be at the point where we're affording the 1.5 million house, it's brilliant, but it's actually quite a big amount of that is going to go towards stamp duty. So, if someone was going to move from a 1.5 million to a 2 million house, there's 200,000 in moving costs, and the stamp duty is going to account for over 75% of that total cost. What does that actually mean? It means that despite the rising cost of materials, there's still plenty of impetus for UK homeowners to commission renovations to the current property rather than making the move to a new home. Okay, now moving on to the good stuff, or at least for me, I think this is the area where it gets really interesting to see in terms of what is impacting the construction industry and in what way and why. It's the obvious one, and it's back again. We already touched on this topic when we examined the European and British markets ever so slightly, but the potential effects of UK leaving the EU, it cannot be understated. Brexit affects the residential industry, which fears a shortage of workers, so whether that's bricklayers or carpenters from mainland Europe. And actually, according to Reuters, as you can see on screen, as many as 21% of the 2.1 million construction workers in the UK come from abroad. And again, that rises even more to 25% in the London area. So we know as well as a result of this that builders are reporting high material costs since the Brexit vote. It can generally be attributed to the weaker pound and the fact that the UK construction industry relies heavily on these building materials being imported. It's not to downplay the importance of the potential impact on Brexit on the availability of construction professionals. At the current time, it remains unclear what kind of agreement is going to be reached, but you can see there that if it were to be a hard Brexit scenario, which I don't think is totally off the table yet, it could lead to a big skills gap, if you like, in the amount of EU workers that aren't going to be entering infrastructure and house building sectors, and that's only looking as far ahead as 2020. So what else? Well, doing it yourself is, it's nothing new, but while small-scale DIY projects won't pose a threat to typical construction or building businesses, the renewed interest in DIY does provide, several building opportunities. Within that, equipment manufacturers could consider creating products or kits, specifically targeting individuals who want to work on their own home improvements, or even creating educational content to increase brand awareness on that front. As it says, the new e-commerce opportunity is all about direct to consumer, and there's a blur in between lines. It's hard because as consumers and professional buyers, that line is blurring for sure. More and more professional buyers expect the same level of convenience and ease when placing work purchases as they do when doing your online shopping. You only have to look at Amazon and imagine how easy that is, and we expect next day delivery, we expect 2-hour delivery in some cases. when we're doing sort of B2C transactions. And it means that traditionally B2C channels like web stores are becoming not only viable but expected within B2B environments. So once a business has a traditionally consumer-oriented sales channel, such as a web store, it's much easier than ever for them to get started with direct-to-consumer sales. So by switching from pure B2B to serving professional buyers and consumers alike, it actually allows manufacturers to capitalize on this DIY trend and also cut out the middleman as well. So 3D printing, it seems to be everywhere. Every sort of event that you go to relating to construction, it's always quite an interesting one. It very much speaks to the imagination, I think. So, there's conjuring images that seem more home in the 20th century science fiction than necessarily business plans for 2018, 2019, 2020. But it's like anything, as machine costs shrink and more engineers use this technology and they start pushing the boundaries, additive manufacturing has already started changing manufacturing as we know it. Is going to have an impact. 3D printing is already established in the world of prototyping. Advancements in tech are making it more feasible to print spare parts on demand, for instance, and that offers numerous benefits. So it's not such as not having to use inventory space for such items and not having to worry about parts going out of stock. As you can see on screen, the PwC research gives some really interesting key takeaways. So, if this is something that you want to receive afterwards, get in touch with Sylvia and she can send you these slides and you can have a look through the stats and the details in a bit more detail. Okay, so we know where we are. We know what can hinder or assist us within the construction sector, but how do we take all that and then factor into a plan? As it states on the screen, if the competition between Amazon, Apple and Google in the smart speaker market is anything to go by, we're on the cusp of the next phase in the smart device revolution. Unless these smart speakers go the way of wearables or take as long to reach the full potential as self-driving cars, for example, I think we're definitely on the cusp. But specifically, what does that look like for the construction industry is obviously what you guys want to know. Well, point one is employee and equipment tracking. So the wearables we already mentioned, they might not become as much commonplace in everyday lives as we thought they would be. We expected, perhaps going up to the launch of Google Glass and similar, but they are making a difference in the building and construction industry. So whether that's wearable smart devices, which are tracking workers on site, you're able to then use the location to ensure individuals are aware of potential hazards, for example. It's not just the employees who are being monitored with the new tech, though. It's equipment sensors that can monitor the status of machinery and indicate when repairs are needed. And almost in some cases, they can actually predict when a machine will need to be repaired. So if it's vibrating more than it normally does, for example, it's just one case, and that is actually starting to come into prediction, which, again, this is all about efficiency, saving cost, saving time, saving money, saving resources. But what does that all mean? What's the benefits? I've sort of touched on it there. It's all about optimizing operations, improving safety, and what every business loves to do, saving money so they can obviously make money. I mean, the aggregation and collection going into a central repository where you can make truly intelligent decisions based on what you're collecting. That's what you want. That's the end goal. All of those decisions are just a way of moving something from a manual process to seeing that information in real time. It does require a high level of interpretability, but finding a solution that can take data from various sources and turn it into valuable information, it remains a challenge. It always will do, because even when we get to the point where we're happy with it, we'll want more data. We want to see more things. We want to understand better what that can predict for our future of our business. Another technology which I want to sort of look at for a moment that's helping the industry boost efficiency is building information modeling software, BIM. BIM platforms, we know, let companies move away from that traditional 2D designs to information-rich 3D plans. So by integrating modeling with visualization tools and project management. I don't think 3D is the limit for BIM. It's also possible to add 2 additional dimensions to a BIM setup. And that allows users to keep track of changes over time, as well as the financial aspects of the project. So I think, I don't want to go into it in too much detail, but it's good to know, there's various levels of a BIM adoption. So the BGC describes that as level 1, 2, and 3. So level 1 is very much firms using firms design using 3D, BIM-based CAD software and clash detection tools. Level 2 is companies exchanging some information in a common BIM format. Perhaps designs and blueprints are created in 3D CAD. And level 3 is that all parties are working from a single shared BIM model stored in the cloud. That shared model is then also used for the basis of all relevant communication and integrates everyone's work. It makes it possible to work in a collaborative hub to solve problems in real time, which again, it's ultimately what every business wants to achieve, but each one has different ways of going about that. So the BCG actually indicates that currently most companies are still at level 1. It's not a surprise. It's, as adopting new technology, it requires considerable effort to get stakeholders on board, ensure you've got sufficient expertise available, and then actually set up this software. But I do think it seems inevitable that even those change-averse organisations will one day, hopefully sooner rather than later, reach level 3, given the way that the use of BIM is being promoted and normalised worldwide, as you can see on screen. It's surely only a matter of time. It's no secret that Amazon has disrupted the retail industry, but I'd like to point out I don't think that's where the effect ends on the Amazon front. Even the building and construction industry should be wary of this e-commerce giant, at least when it comes to home improvement products. So for example, if we look at the US, which you can see along the top there, Amazon's tools and home improvement sales are worth a fraction of the industry value. But have a think about this. Amazon's growth is seriously outpacing the industry in terms of year-to-year sales growth by a massive amount, which is something which actually quite surprised me, and I think it's a really interesting statistic. And while it's as strong as ever in the US, it doesn't necessarily mean that we in the UK are safe, or even in the German market either. As you can see there in the UK along the bottom, 20% year-on-year growth. As we come to an end, I think it's always useful to understand a real-life case. So with this particular customer of Sana, Metaphorix, we saw some challenges. So for example, we saw they wanted more efficient order processing. What was the solution to that? Well, we gave them immediate order processing. We gave them an integrated e-commerce solution. And ultimately, that all led to one thing, which is the results that they wanted. Over 1 million in revenue, more time for new businesses, and more time for new clients. I think obviously the 1 million in revenue, it's a very obvious statistic, but you can't put time on your resources, you can't put time on the cost of going out to win new business, of keeping your current clients happy, because if you can't do that, naturally it all has a cost to your business. So just a quick touch on more about the sort of integration and the Sana philosophy. The idea is to have the ERP and the e-commerce system working as one. So you can see on the left, there's only one system that should be the one source of truth. And there shouldn't be two intelligent systems battling against each other or more, as you can see on the diagram on the right, where it just totally confuses which is right, which is wrong, and where the real-time information is coming from, and where I should get my price list from, my volume discounts, whatever it may be. It's all about integration. It doesn't matter what sector, what industry or department you work in. You know, as a marketeer, I want to be able to see stuff in real time, whether that be on a Power BI dashboard. I know Sylvia will be the same. We want to know what's happening right now. We don't want to wait 24 hours. So you can see down the right there, you know, we're looking at real-time stock information, real-time order processing. We want to be able to partially prepay. We want to be able to cross and upsell related items. We want our customers to be able to see their specific assortments or prices. We don't want to be able to wait to show them this, and we don't expect it in the B2C world. You know, that I think that's, you look at companies that have gone out of business, such as Maplin more recently, they've never really truly taken to e-commerce, and they've never taken the next steps with it either. So just on screen are some typical web design packs, and the reason I share this is because, you know, it's no good being online. It needs to be good. It needs to be mobile responsive. Again, we have that certain level of expectation when we go online that you know, websites will be slick, websites will be easy to search, website will obviously give us a really clear idea of where the catalog is. So I think it's really key to have a little focus on the design packs there as well. And as already mentioned, integration is key. That's why add-on systems such as PIM systems, marketing and payment solutions can all be easily enabled as part of Sana's e-commerce package. So apart from that, I just want to say thank you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. Sylvia, thank you for inviting Sana and myself to go over the webinar, and I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Well, great. Nice one, David. I hope that you all found that interesting and useful. If you have any questions, please take note of my contact details on screen now. I'm more than happy to help you out with anything that you've seen this morning. Keep an eye out for the recording of this webinar on our website as well. There you can view all of our past webinars too, and we'll be you know, we have quite an extensive library up there now, so please do go and take a look on our videos page. So again, thanks for being with us this morning. Have a great day, enjoy the sunshine, and we'll see you very soon. Cheers!